May 15th, 2020, and we start with a Fox News alert again. Joe Biden speaking out on the Michael Flynn case. Ainsley?
That's right, Steve. It is his first interview since being named as one of the Obama officials who requested Flynn's unmasking. Brian?
I wonder if he'll get a plaque for that. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington. And Griff, Biden is still denying had any knowledge of the Flynn investigation. How can that be? He tried to unmask, didn't he?
Good morning, Brian, Ainsley, and Steve. It's the first we're hearing from the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee after being revealed as one of the unmaskers and after stumbling, Brian, with that question first with George Stephanopoulos, the former Veep has become more assertive.
Mr. Vice President, what was your involvement in the investigation of Michael Flynn and the FBI investigation of Michael Flynn?
I was never a part or had any knowledge of any criminal investigation into Flynn while I was in office, period. Not one single time.
This raising questions after it was revealed that Biden was present in a January 5th White House Oval Office meeting with President Obama when the Flynn matter was discussed, and the timing of Biden's request 7 days later on January 12th to unmask Flynn. Biden also in that interview blasting Attorney General Barr's decision to dismiss the Flynn case.
The Attorney General of the United States is not the president's lawyer. It's the people's lawyer. It's a dereliction of his duty. What's going on is an absolute travesty, a travesty of justice. That will not happen.
Remember, Flynn pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI, but Barr moved to drop the case, citing FBI misconduct in conducting the Flynn interview. Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell, also speaking out last night.
The government is the only institution that has lied in this case. General Flynn was honest with the agents.
And we could see hearings on the Hill. Senator Graham saying he's opening a Judiciary Committee inquiry into the Russia investigation, but don't expect him to call former President Obama, which he said would be good for TV, but not good for the country. Brian, Ainsley, Steve?
That's right, Griff. Thank you very much. So the big question is, did the White House play a role in the leaking, the criminal leaking of this information to the Washington Post? Everybody's trying to do that calculus. And as Griff just mentioned, the president yesterday tweeted out, hey, Lindsey Graham, first person you should call is Barack Obama. He knew everything. Don't be Mr. Nice Guy. Lindsey Graham came back and said, probably not good for the country. Meanwhile, let's talk about, we are hearing from two of the figures who did do some unmasking. John Brennan and James Clapper, Clapper the DNI, and Brennan who ran the CIA. Here is a soundbite where Brennan talks a little bit about the DOJ dropping the charges against Mr. Flynn, and Mr. Clapper talking about how often unmasking happens.
I think our country is in very serious trouble when you have such blatant political corruption at the highest levels of the U.S. government, something I never thought I would see in my lifetime.
It's a routine thing. It's appropriate and legitimate when you have a valid foreign intelligence target engaging with a U.S. person.
So what's interesting about those two interviews is during the John Brennan interview, he was not apparently asked why he wanted Mr. Flynn unmasked. That was on MSNBC. And then Ainsley on CNN, when Mr. Clapper was asked about whether or not he had leaked the video went dead, and obviously he could not answer. But of course, video goes dead all the time on these remote location shows like what we're doing right now.
That's exactly right, Steve. It is live television. When you hear from Brennan and you hear from Clapper, you hear Susan Rice saying she would accept the position if she were asked to be his vice president, Joe Biden's vice president. Jim Jordan had an interesting comment on Laura Ingraham's show last night. He's talking about the swamp fighting back. Listen.
They just keep on going with their narrative because they're so determined to go after this president. You know, this is a simple principle here. When you drain the swamp fights back. Even when they know they're wrong and even when it's proven they're wrong, they keep fighting back.
It's the same players, guys. We keep hearing these names and have been for, what, more than a decade. Brian?
Yeah, I'm just very curious. What about a follow-up question? You said you had nothing to do, Joe Biden, with the investigation. Well, then who asked for the unmasking? Was it you? You know, Samantha Power says, I didn't ask for any unmasking. 7 times she's requesting. Is someone requesting in her name? Is there another story to this? Or are they just being dishonest in saying that they didn't request it? Meanwhile, the other big story is what's going to happen to Michael Flynn. Almost every legal expert caught by surprise by the judge's decision to go with a retired judge to evaluate whether they should prosecute Michael Flynn, which makes no sense to legal scholars like Mark Levin.
Mr. Flynn is first and foremost an American citizen. They used the surveillance of the Russian ambassador, and I suspect many others, as an excuse to backdoor their way into eavesdropping on American citizens, particularly those who work for the Trump administration, in clear violation of the purpose and intent of the Bill of Rights and the Fourth Amendment.
What they have done to this country, the rule of law, the Constitution, and now our courts with this judge, Emmett Sullivan, and I want to talk about him in particular.
This judge is a rogue judge. He's out of control. He should recuse himself, but he's too damn arrogant, and he won't.
And the real fear I have for Michael Flynn's welfare, his family's welfare, is that they're going to go into a delay a game of 4 corners offense before the 30-second shot clock. And they're going to just say, we're going to wait to see if we get a President Biden, at which time they can have a brand new Justice Department to take a look. And Michael Flynn's life just ends up in hyperspace in an apartment somewhere wondering how he's going to pay his bills. Could not be more unjust. Ainsley.
Well, Brian, let me add just one thing. That is one of the reasons why yesterday the president, last night actually, a little before midnight, tweeted out about, hey, where's the 302? That is the notes that the agents took where supposedly Mr. Flynn is accused of lying to the FBI. Where are those notes? They can't find them. So, just curious. It's like when the shot goes dead. It's just one of those things that happens. Just saying.
Yeah, president is pushing that too. Okay, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
All right. Meanwhile, another Fox News alert, and we're looking live at Capitol Hill, where later today the